My personal preference is to have at least a color palette. Move the pieces for baking. When there are characters that we have defined eyes with pupils and stuff, I will use more. This is me playing with the colors, with the color palette. Yeah, I think it's faster this way. So if something's not working out, we can just.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. We are going to talk a little bit about character development. I'm with a friend of mine and colleague, Arturo. He's a character artist on the Eternal League project. And today we will share a little bit insights of how we are developing the characters. Hey, Arturo. But first, before going into any details, wanted to do a short introduction, give you a little bit of an insight how he got to the place where he is now. So, hey, welcome. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you for asking.
No worries, no worries. So, tell us a little bit more about how you got to be a character artist. Like, what kind of get you started in the industry? Tell us a little bit about your career.
Well, since I'm from Ecuador, in here there is not, well, maybe now a little bit, but there wasn't such a thing as a way to make a living doing video games because there is no industry. So for me, it wasn't even an option for many years. So as most of us, I love video games, but just as a fan. Then I started working on motion graphics since I was 19 years old, mostly doing stuff for broadcasts in here and then for advertising for many years. But in the back of my head, there was always time and love for doing characters as a side project for myself, which no one asked me to do, but it was a passion of mine. So I kept doing it, and eventually, many years after that, I decided that I wanted to try getting into video games since now it's a possibility to work remotely. That helps a lot. So I start applying for character artist, and that's how it happened in a really
I guess
concise
like
way.
for all of us, it's been I mean, some of us start directly in game dev, others slowly get to game dev through other means. I myself as well wasn't always in game dev. I did like architectural visualizations at some point, and that led more towards environments and everything. So yeah, I guess for all of us, the road is not very straightforward. It's always been like a little bit left and right. But you also have the hobby of doing miniatures and doing like things for 3D printing and doing like awesome characters. You shared some stuff and showed me some stuff that you did. I guess that hobby came eventually, or it was in the very beginning as well that you were interested.
Mm, well, I think everything started with drawing since I was 5 years old. And there
Mm.
was this Messenger cartoon, the first mecha or robot cartoons I saw. Then I started drawing them, and after that, I kept drawing comics, and then I started painting with oils and other media. So it has always been about painting, and then I found out there are miniatures that you can pay for fun. I had no idea, and that that kept me rolling. And then I found Gunpla, which is this uh, scaled down model kits from the Gundam series, which I really love building and painting. So yes, so all of this stuff is related. Oh, and also I found out about 3D printing, so I need to get into that. So I have like 200 hobbies right now, but all of them are sort of related. No way.
And you mentioned like animated series and other things. I don't want to give out there our age, but what were some of the animations and things that got you kind of inspired and got you into doing all of that?
Probably Transformers, like when I was a kid.
Okay.
Messenger, I don't know the pronunciation of messenger in the other language. In Spanish, we call it messenger. It's or masinga. I have no idea how to pronounce it, but that was like, this is for me. I love robots. That's the way I found out.
Did you had this? I think it was called Voltron. I watched it in my
Uh,
childhood a lot.
Voltron was so amazing. I always wanted to have a Voltron toy, but I I never got one. So I don't think about it that much
Yeah,
because it's
Voltron
a painful.
was like it was the thing. It was really like really amazing. Like I think that from like my friends and like everyone pretty much when it was on TV, everyone was talking about it. So yeah, it was super popular.
And then in my 20s, in my early 20s, I saw Evangelion, which is also
Mm,
something like once you see it, you cannot unsee it.
true. Going a little bit towards our topic today and talking a little bit more about Eternal League. First, I would like to say that Eternal League is currently on Steam, so you can add it to your wish list. And we don't have an exact date, but very soon we are going to start our early access. So I'll put a link down in the description or as well a pop-up somewhere on the video that is going to take you to our Steam page. Add it to the wish list. You can see a little bit more gameplay and information in there. But yeah, today we wanted really to go get our talk and talk a little bit more about the characters. There are some really amazing characters. I would give that to you. That you contributed not only on the doing like there are many 3D artists that I worked with throughout my career that they usually follow a concept and that's pretty much it. Then there are artists that like as well to design and contribute a lot to the design. I think you were I would say the soul and like the person that brought a lot of these design decisions, and also you worked a lot with our concept artist Rally. By the way, for Rally, for the concept art, we are going to have a talk similar to this one, and also subscribe and follow for that video so that you don't miss it. And we are going to talk a little bit about the concept work. But I mean, your work was not only about following the concept, especially at the early stages. I think that we went through a lot of iterations, and you really are the person that pushed and shaped the way that the game works and looks. Not only on character side, I think you influenced a lot the environment part as well. But yeah, tell us a little bit more about the process of how we do the characters, and yeah, what were your thought processes initially when we were doing the designs, and also later when we translate the characters from 2D to 3D.
Well, at the beginning, I did my best not to make a mess of them. It was a big responsibility taking all of those characters, especially since the beginning, since there is nothing to follow and you have to start influencing the way they're all going to look. So, at the beginning, it was even difficult because we were trying to set the tone for the characters, and I was trying to follow in the concepts, and I wasn't sure of how far from the concepts I could get. There were some iterations when I was sure that I needed to change a little bit stuff that I thought maybe even if in the concept looks great, maybe in 3D it's not gonna work so good. But then I think eventually we managed to work it out, and then it helped a lot also that I had a lot of freedom from you, that I can make decisions about the characters and follow a little bit my instinct of what things I could change or to improve. Like the the concepts in this case were more than there were a guide, but there was also like a platform where I can take it to a little bit of a higher place from what it was, and that's how I saw it. So it's in that sense, in that sense, it was really a joy to work with these characters where I can.
And they were very different. I mean, the characters and how the game looked initially, because when we started work on the project, it was very very different. It was a lot more, let's say, colorful, a bit like a lot more stylized, and then I think we slowly started turning it into this a bit. We still kept it somewhat friendly, but a bit darker, more greedy. Also changing a lot of the proportions from what we had before. I mean, it was yeah, a lot of iterations, I think, went through through all of this.
I would say the first 2 months we had a lot of iterations, but then I think we start getting faster and faster with the characters. We managed to do a considerable amount of characters in the small time we had.
Yeah, let's show some a character that you wanted to show today, and talk about it, and also just to give a little bit of a visual reference, and as well, yeah, just talk us through of what we see now, and yeah, in general, how much time the different parts in the, like, what are the thought processes, how much time the different sections of development of this character takes, and also what are like the key things that you're looking at any of those stages. So we currently see this is Monk from the game, and this is like the very very early concept without any colors or anything else. So yeah, tell us what are the things that you're looking for when you see something like that from the concept team.
Well, yes, this is Monk. This is actually the second skin from Monk. We already had done one at this stage, but as you can see, the concepts were like you have a lot of information in there, but there is space for us to feel to add information to this. So this is the approach I took with him. This is Riley's concept, which I really like this character from the beginning, and I was looking forward to model it. And what I did with him first was to let me go back to my trusty blender.
A true Blender user. I am sure that everyone are gonna be happy from the comments. There's people have been asking me about some Blender videos for some time. So yeah, showing a little bit of Blender work. And by the way, on the project we used different software. We were like few 3D people that are doing stuff. So we used of course some of the Autodesk's things, and as well we've been using Blender. So yeah, I'm sure that some people will be happy with seeing what we see now. But yeah, this I guess is a blockout. Yeah, talk us through how that blockout was set up, and yeah, again, what are key things you're looking at.
Yeah, this is the first day probably if of this guy, and I was just trying to find the shapes. And at the beginning, it's always horrible. I now that I look at him again, it's like this is a bad day, but it's a necessary day for me to find the. I need to make problems at the beginning to then find solution to those problems I made. So, but it's important for me to have something to start making decisions. So this is the first Let me put this side to side. It's gonna be a little bit. Oh, this is an edit. There. So I'm trying to follow the concept a little bit. At the beginning, it's always not so great, but eventually, I I start find the stuff that I like. By the way, this ringing here, it's from the original scheme, so I'm using this as a placeholder holder at the beginning because since our characters were separated by parts, and we have three main parts, which is head, upper body, and lower body. All of those parts must work between them.
Yeah, because of the
So
character customization and how we can swap
yes,
and do all the different things about characters. Yeah.
correct. So this is something important for me, and this is this was initial stage.
So I guess like since that part with the parts working together as people can customize it, it's really important to have like same reference points, like same placement for where elbows and yeah, different parts of the hero are, just because all the animations, the skeleton and everything is going to be the same and shared.
Just so animator will love me even more if I make changes in the proportions, and we can use the same rig for all the characters. Yeah, that was a must for all of these characters, showing the that has different skins, but all of them need to work with the same skeleton.
Yeah.
So yeah. By the way, I even though I could do this in ZBrush, I don't like jumping from one software to the other only if I need to. So some characters were done entirely in ZBrush, but to be honest, if I could get away with Blender, I would just keep it in Blender.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know how to sculpt in Blender, so if I have to do something really organic, I will have to go to ZBrush.
Yeah, so you use Blender just initially for doing like the blockout and yeah, finding those key points and elements for the hero. What are other things that you are looking at this stage, like except those reference points and joints and everything to be in the same? Do you have any sort of a way of checking like readability and if there are like any issues with any of the shapes that you have on the character? Because a lot of the things that we see on 2D, they look very cool, like looking it from a certain perspective, but then when you put it in 3D and have volume to them, sometimes those things don't look as cool.
Well, yes, indeed. It's some things that make sense only in 2D, and once you try to make them in 3D, it's not so great. But that's like a great challenge to figure volumes up. And I will
Yeah.
show you the second stage where this is more a little bit more closer to what it will be. So in here, I'm trying to figure all the shapes, especially the torso was a little bit of a mystery for me at the beginning. And there are things that are not considered in the, or they are considered, but they're not specific in the concept, like the connection between the upper body and the lower body. We have a constraint, which is this plane in here. This was our border.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something I needed to hide for them to work. So this was a consideration, and then we use the head as a separate mesh. So this one is a little bit easier. But as you can see, everything is just
Yeah, I think also noticeable from the first and this version of it. On the first one, you had a lot more like smaller elements and so on. Here, we can already see like some not only bigger elements, but also in terms of shapes. Since the game we're working on is top-down, I guess a lot of the detailing and size of elements and so on, you took it into consideration from similar to the in-game camera and how things gonna look there as well.
yes. And since this is stylized, I will try as much as possible to avoid 90 degrees angles, if it makes sense. Everything it's a little bit tapered in a sense. And even if this is my, you will see later that this shaping, for example, at the beginning for me it was looking great, but then I decided that it was against what I just said, that avoiding the 90 degrees angles. So
Yeah.
that's why I will change it afterwards. And
Yeah. And is it something at this stage that you're thinking about, like how these parts are going to get animated, how he's gonna move, or this is something that comes in a little bit later stage?
no, it comes from the beginning. Actually, we will have a conversation about this, how, especially the cloth, how it's going to move. If I'm thinking the low poly since from the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
just to make my life happier. So I'm considering the low poly. If something's going to be attached or detached to other parts, I want to know that from the beginning as much as possible. Sometimes we cannot foresee these things, but
Yeah.
this is a consideration having all the time. And even I'm since I'm doing high poly modeling, I'm also thinking some parts are going to work for me in the low poly already. I just have to do I can just delete if you see I'm just using a bevel modifier and a subdivision on top of it. And then when I'm doing the low poly, I just can delete those modifiers. I have the base of the low poly already and just start doing the connection. So low poly, it's just a 1 day work,
Yeah,
which is
yeah, you
great.
already have the base for it. I mean, you don't have to start it from
Yes.
scratch.
That's the beauty of doing it in Blender because in ZBrush, then I will have to do a little bit more of a detailed retopology. But in some cases, is I cannot avoid it, but I'm trying to think about these things
Okay.
while I'm working.
And
So,
this what we see now is already like the second iteration. At this point, like,
yes.
is it something that it was just work done on your side, or it's like a communication that you're also talking with concept art? Like, what is the back and forth thought process? Do you need them for some of these decisions, or do you need like any extra sketches from them, or it's only pretty much you trying and figuring out the shapes?
In this case, it's more of me trying to figuring out the shapes. But once I think I have figured them out, I need to check with the guys, the team. In this case, you. What do you think about the state is right now? Considering, of course, like this is just a blocking
Yeah.
out that it's letting you know the volume of it, but doesn't mean that, of course, this is going to.
Yeah, yeah, and just for everyone's reference, like Eternal League team, it's a very small team. Like we are just 8 people developing the game. We've been in development for about a year already, and yeah, for such a small team, I would say that the first few months, we really went a lot back and forth, a lot of iterations, changes in how exactly we do things. But then we got very optimized into how we produce content. And even though that the team is, like as I mentioned, very very small, from these 8 people, half of it is on the development side, like development and design. The other half is on the art side. So these are just like 4 artists that are pretty much developing the content that you see in the game, and it's a lot of content. Like, were you a little bit intimidated? I know that in the very beginning we talked about having just a few heroes and a few minions as well, but at some point the scope kind of, let's say, blew up once we kind of figure out what is the process and like what we like. We got to a point where we were discussing, and we have at the moment like 5 playable heroes. Each of these heroes has just as a scope for it. Each of these heroes has like multiple different parts, so they have like head, torso, and leg parts. Also, they have different weapons that they can use. So these are 4 elements per hero. In total, I checked it just before our call. We have a little over 200 elements for all the different hero parts. This is removing the weapons. And then on top of it, we have the enemies and the other minions like companions that can be summoned, which currently are 16 more models as well that we have. And this for a small team being developed. I would remove the R&D part. I would say being developed within 8-month period. Yeah, it's I would say really amazing in terms of amount of content and also the fidelity that content ends up being. So
Well, to answer your question, yes, I was scared, but I was following your lead. Like I said, if he's not running in circles with waving his arms, then I will not run in circles and wave my arms. So we're good. But yes, because at the beginning we were going to do a set amount of characters, and then that number start growing, then growing. But
and also the customization came in because we initially did the characters as one piece, and then I think a few months down the line we decided that we were going to split them into the 3 parts.
Yes, those were beautiful times. So I had to go back to them and split them. And then we also at some point decided to implement a shader where you can change the colors of them in-game with just a mask.
Yeah.
That also meant that we had to go back a little bit, but that was faster. But yeah, but even now that you mention it, I forgot about it. It wasn't that bad. Nothing too much time. So
okay, yeah. Going back to the character. So at this stage, like this is already the 2nd iteration. You from here, are you continuing on iterating on the shapes, or already at this point you are taking it to do high polys?
Both. I will start, like, I make decisions even at a later stage. Sometimes I will still not try to find something that I don't like. And right now, if I look at the finished character, I will keep finding stuff. So
yeah, this is the typical artist.
Yes,
I think we always go back and see
so
things that we are not happy with.
This is why it's great having 2 weeks deadline for characters. So I know that at that point I will have to
it's great, by the way, that you mentioned this for the 2 weeks. So for everyone's like reference, like we have 2 weeks. Like the moment that we have the design of the character, from that point we give us 2 weeks time frame. Of course, sometimes it's less, sometimes it takes a little bit more, but we give roughly 2 weeks per character. We got to this estimate as what is a comfortable, let's say, speed for the 3D team to work, but as well the scope and the time that we had to develop everything, so that everything goes into time frame. And I would say we were quite optimized in this. We didn't really give much room for us to start like wandering around and start like doing, I would say, sometimes in production I've seen in other studios and other games that I worked on, that at some point you get to a cycle where it's just being picky. It's not really contributing that much to the end, I would say, visuals of the character, and it starts becoming more of kind of personal feeling. I like that part, or I don't like this part, and like too many people, I would say, getting into the discussions. In our case, I guess that process was faster, easier, but yeah, tell me how are your feelings about it?
I am picky. It's,
Yeah, you usually are
it's,
the more
it's
picky.
just that,
I'm
that
usually
I
the one that was stopping a little bit some of the.
it's just that I know that I can be picky for 2 weeks, and then
Yeah.
that's all I have. So
Yeah.
that helps. But yeah. So after this point, what will happen is I will start doing more things. This is the end result of the high poly, and you can see I already took this guy to ZBrush to do the cloth parts.
Mm-hmm.
I already clean and establish a little bit more of the shapes so they can be read a little bit more from top. I try to keep him as shape wise as clean as possible, if it makes sense.
Yeah, and also interesting thing that we see here is the shoulder. So in the initial concept, it was very symmetrical, but you took the decision of breaking that symmetry. Yeah, what was your thought process behind that?
Well, yeah, this is something I did since the beginning.
Yeah, yeah,
You can see
yeah. And I see
I
that here it went from three to one sphere to again going back to three spheres on the shoulder.
yes. Well, I for the first character we did for Monk, which is the first skin, we broke a little bit the symmetry, and it worked really nice. So I wanted to try that with this guy, and we were planning to use this as movable weapons also that were going to be detached in animation. So probably for a ultimate. So that sounded like a really nice attack for him. So this was our idea behind him, and even it's not in the concept as you can as you saw, it's in the initial blockout. So that means that we had this conversation, and this is when Riley gets involved, and if she says thumbs up, then we are all happy, and then we can move on to this.
Okay. And from this stage, because the original concept doesn't have any colors, do you? I know that like some of our concepts we did like color versions. For others we didn't do. But your personal preference, um, I guess it's to have like the color version.
My personal preference is to have at least a color palette, so I know how it's going to
Yeah.
be. I don't need it to be fully rendered, but to know what colors do I have to play with, and the main color, the accents where they're going. Uh, yeah, that helps a lot. Or even in our case, since most of our characters have emission parts, I want to see where are those emission parts because they also help a little bit.
Yeah, define the shapes and
In
the
Yeah,
silhouette and everything. Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, so at this point, I'm still not thinking in color,
Yeah.
uh, because it was, but at the same time, we already had the first skin, so I know the palette.
Yeah.
So what I have to decide is how I'm going to apply that palette to this character. And for this one, since it had a little bit more of the pants, that element needed another color. So I try to add one extra color for this character, so it's not so similar. Even
Mm-hmm.
if I want them to look as skins of the same character, I also don't want them to look too much
Yeah, because they also
as
need
the
to
same.
work with each other at the end of the day, because we need to be able to mix and
Yes,
match. So it's still important to have some like to follow the hero's color palette and like color choices, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, few things to consider there, I guess, when we are mix and matching different parts. And this is already like the third iteration. Like you already have like the details and everything on it. Is this the point where you already are starting to take this into like baking it and seeing how things work on the low poly, and if there are any things that you need to tweak and change, or there are still more stages?
No, from this point on, it's low poly and baking.
Okay.
And in the baking process, sometimes I need to go back and fix something. It happens less and less, but sometimes it still happens that I need to
Yeah.
go back and change something in the low poly so it works, or even in the high poly
Yeah. What
so
are
it
some
works.
things that's like when you're doing the bakes? Like, do you separate some of the parts, like to have a little bit of distance so it doesn't influence the bake? Or yeah, what are some things that you're doing before, like how you prepare pretty much the character to go and be ready for baking?
I don't separate the parts for, well, yes, they are separated and I bake by naming. So there is going to be a lot of separation actually in this guy.
Yeah, because there are few, like quite a lot actually, parts that are like overlapping arms. Then you have armor. Then you have
Yes.
like the collar around the neck, shoulders, and yeah, all these parts.
Correct. So in here you can see the amount of pieces I use for baking. And what I don't move the pieces for baking, but I would probably move the pieces for painting. If let's say in this case, I would probably move, and I think I did, move the pants out of this place
Yeah,
so
because
I can
otherwise it will be very
so I
challenging.
can paint. Yes,
Yeah,
correct. So I will help myself a little bit in that way. But other than that, I naming baking with names. It's beautiful, so no need for me to move anything, at least for baking. And then once I have the low poly, I will start doing texturing. We can go see
yeah.
a little bit
Just
of that.
before that, one thing I wanted to talk as well was UVs. So is there like a specific way that we try to organize the character UVs so that they follow like similar logic? I mean,
It's a
for
good
some
question.
projects, like I know that we did like for example the head being into this portion of the texture, and then arms or whatever needs to be in that portion of the texture,
Yes,
and so on and so on.
yes. Which well, even right now there are beautiful add-ons that can make even more beautiful packing of UVs that can use every single space. But for these characters, we're still trying to keep all the UV islands oriented in wall space. So it makes a little bit sense once you see the texture. If you need to go change something by hand, it's more artist friendly.
Yeah,
So yes, and I try to group stuff. Let's say head. Well, in this case, head is a single. It is on its own. But let's say I have the upper body, then I will try to have as much as possible the texture space divided in quarters. So one quarter is for the torso, shoulders for the second quarter, arms, and stuff like that. So it makes a little bit of sense,
hmm,
and there is some sort of organization.
yeah. I guess that also helps, like especially working with other people in the team, as you said, like organizing, making sure that it follows similar logic and you can find things easy. And because it might be that not always you're going to do a character from point A to all the way to the end. It might be that at some point someone will need to do an iteration or any sort of change, and yeah, just to have same logic, same organization, and yeah, just makes life, I guess, easier.
Yeah, yeah, it's really important, especially also when texturing, because eventually we'll share files with other characters. Let's say that we make two skins for monk, and then the third skin goes for another artist, which was actually the case. Then we have to share all the files, and
Yeah.
those files need to make sense.
So yeah, about the texture parts, like except as you said, like sharing with other artists that they follow these things. I guess organizing your texture in such way also helps you have consistency for texture density in between the different characters, because you already know that, like, oh, this is the part where the head goes, and this is roughly the size, how much size it's going to take into the texture space. So it kind of gives more or less consistency. Like, is this also like one of the things that you're thinking about when packing the textures?
I'm trying to have the same text density all around. I'm not gonna lie, not that much, a little bit.
I mean, it's not always completely possible, because some of the designs are like way simpler, and then others, of course, have a lot more complexity in them.
Yes. For example, this is what I would have. In some cases, it is possible to have a great organization, but in other places, not so much. I'm still trying to use as much space as possible, and we're using different textures for each part since, and this is something that we did. We're not using one texture for the whole
Yeah,
character, but it's split in three textures or three sets, so we don't have to load the whole character if only we're going to use a
yeah,
small
yeah. This
part.
is because of the customization and the mix and matching.
Yes, that's why we have the materials from an SB. But as you can see, it's sort of, you can tell what are you looking at
Yeah.
just by. I'm still trying to use the space as much as I can, and in some cases, I will make when there are characters that we have defined eyes with pupils and stuff. I would use more. If I have free texture space, I would use that space for. That's when I break the tensor density for
Yeah,
details that really matter. And then that's all. By the way, this is the low
the low poly
poly.
already. Yeah.
Yes, so it's, and you
Yeah, I
can see
can see
this is
that.
the.
There's like a lot of the details that you kept in there as well.
It was important to have the the main shapes in there. As you can see, this is the high poly. We can move this
Hmm.
to the side.
But yeah, still, even though we kept like the main shapes, in terms of poly count, the budget for the heroes, it's not super high. I mean, we have it a little bit higher just because we need to see that in the character customization in the menu you see them up close and they need to look good, but then also we reduce that quite a lot, quite significantly inside the game sessions. So this character in particular, it's about 15k, correct me if I'm wrong, the low poly.
It's actually it's 1480 14.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
almost
I think
15.
that while playing like in game, it drops all the way to like below 3. Like all the characters, we reduce
Yes.
them below 3. So and still, this is an important part that like on the shapes and everything that we have. That of course a lot of the small details when we go all the way below 3k, we lose them, but their main things like the shoulders, like for example how his arms look like, and different things that are the main big chunkier shapes that help define the specific skin and character, so it's readable on the screen. And yeah, yeah. Tell a little bit more about the low poly process, like why you are trying to do it the way that it's done.
Well, most important thing for me is that this guy has to look as much as possible as the high poly without textures. So given that I use the budget that I have or less.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the idea. And there are some things that we didn't have transparency, so we
Yeah.
have to do everything by poly. So that's why we have these small cuts in here.
Oh, I was
And
going to ask you, by the way, to put the wireframe so we
oh
can
yeah,
have a look on that.
this is what we have. And of course, where I will put more emphasis will be always the head, which is going to be, or most details are needed. This is when I will even have the luxury of bevels.
Yeah,
This is
and
a luxury.
why is important? Like, tell us a bit about the bevels and why we are adding those.
Oh yeah, in here it's pretty clear what it does. It defines the the geo in a better way. Also in here you can have sort of this break without having this hard edge, which is not great looking.
Yeah.
We want to avoid hard edges as possible, but we also want to use hard edges in our advantage in some cases like this. I want to break I want to break this shape, so I would be smooth, hard, smooth. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a combination that we need to make to guide the shading, which is actually what I'm trying to do, guide the shading
Yeah.
of the low poly in low poly. So this is like halfway there, good enough. That means that with textures and normals, it's going to be even better. And as in the high poly.
Yeah, and I think you're doing a great job here, and as well what you explained with the edges and everything. Because even just looking at the low poly without the bakes and anything else, you can already kind of get the sense and feeling of the surfaces. So the parts which are like armor and are made from a hard material, you can, because of this edges that you're adding, you get already that feeling. And then the parts that are softer, like the cloth parts, you can already see that like it just feels different, like looks and feels different.
Hopefully, hopefully, yes. That's the idea. And well, yeah. So as you can see, this is the end mesh we have, but I have in the low poly. This is the baked version of it. That if you
Yeah,
check with
because we
the
don't
high
need
poly,
all three of
yes. So in some cases, I can do some UV stacking. So some parts are not needed. And once I have this, I will go to take this guy to Substance Painter since Blender doesn't do this yet. So
yeah.
we have to.
And here we already see the magic, how you split it, the different parts
Yes,
and behind the scenes.
yes, this is me helping myself, making my life easier, moving stuff around. So this is the albedo, which is, of course, the most important texture. So because even if you can in PVR, some stuff can look pretty nice with just roughness and reflection. You still need to have detail in the albedo so it contributes. And in our case, especially because we were using it's not we were using an emissive as a driver for the texture for the material, so you see a lot of the diffuse
Yeah.
in the character. So even better to have some.
Yeah, and also I think like we will talk a little bit about the shading and like some details that you did for in the albedo and everything else. Just because as well we don't have like any ambient occlusion in the game, so to define better some of the shapes and fake ambient occlusion in it, like there was a lot of things added to the albedo. But yeah, for the texture process, like what, like when you get to here, like what are the first steps? Like, do you use some bases? Like, do you start from some sort of like a quick preset base for the colors and everything, and then paint on top? Or yeah, what are the steps already for texturing?
Well, at this point, since we already made another monk scheme, I will take that scheme, export it as a smart material, bring it to this guy. So it will be my starting point. Even if I have to repaint most of the stuff by hand, I already have the color palette or the texture the way I want it to look. So, but if this is a new character, then we had since we're making many things, we had a library, which was a starting point for us that we can tweak, but it will help all the characters look the same. So Well, I will probably, this is the way how it looks while texturing. So we have the emissive parts, and here, this is me playing with the colors, with the color palette, now figuring out how it's going to
Mm-hmm.
look, because up until that point we were talking about, everything is gray. So this is when the character comes alive.
Yeah, yeah, and also it's the time that I think you and me we spent a bit of time going back and forth in terms of shininess and like the how reflective different surfaces are, and yeah, just discussing that so that so we have like a material definition, and you can not only like you already did a great job in terms of like the low poly and what we talked about, the beveling and everything else, so that some surfaces that are hard surfaces look hard, but now is the part of like also the texture surface and the finish on top of it as well to contribute to that. So parts that are supposed to be metal and hard and shiny. Yeah, have like a specific reflections and roughness, and then other parts. Of course, we really want to have that material definition. It's like important part.
Yeah. At the same time, we will try to avoid too much of a glossy look, which doesn't help really too much the shapes.
Yeah,
So even if we have metal, our metal was really
yeah, matte, not so.
rough.
Yeah,
But there's spots in there, but it's really rough and still. And when texturing, I will try to do not much of high frequency details, because since our games mostly top down, like an RTS, well, I want it to be readable at a distance. So I'm thinking more of how does it look at a far distance, at closer, and then I will start making details when you look closer at it. That's the idea.
yeah, and
And
yeah, go for it, go for it.
oh no, I was thinking that probably when I paint, I this is my Gunpla or making model kits background. Probably someone that makes model kits CDs will say that there is influencing model kit painting.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I was going to mention this. That's probably this is the point where uh, you making models and like 3D printing and everything else comes in place and comes to help uh, looking at.
well, yeah, it's like you can see the shading that we always do. Model paints, we do a shading, a pre-shade that goes. It's a black and white paint job that goes below, and then you use the final color on top of it, and then that final color inherits a little bit of the black and the whites below, so it creates this vibrancy. So this is something that I really like. I will try to incorporate. It's, of course, it's not done the same way in here because it's not needed, even if you could. But the idea behind it's will be the same.
Yeah. And also other thing here as well, like you mentioned already, like the dirt and everything. But one thing that I noticed very often, especially from let's say more starting artists, they really like putting like a lot of edges and edge dirt and edge wear, which and especially using like the default settings and just drag and dropping a modifier on top, like it does part of the job, but then it doesn't look like natural and organic. Like what is your thought process when not only about the dirt, but also when it comes to edge wear and where to add that, and yeah, why, what, how you pick the places that you picked for that?
Well, first, this is a scene that we have all committed. Like having too many edgeware around. Like, and this is a conversation we had to. Like, you want to avoid the generator look or the procedural look. The
Yeah.
procedural look. So that means that we cannot have it everywhere we want it. At this point, what you're thinking is, what are the parts of the armor more prone to have being scratched? There will always be the outer parts and the more pointy parts. So that's where you start, and then you need to tone. It's more than subtracting edge wear than adding edge wear. Like, you need to tone it down
Yeah, because
a lot.
I guess you do the first pass by like some of the automatic tools, and then you just
Yes,
subtract and remove a little bit here and there.
yes, correct. And then you go by hand. And well, there's also one thing that we do for these guys. If you see there are some
Mm-hmm.
panel line details in the texturing that are not present in the high poly, because they're not needed in the high poly. If I can do something in the low poly to save a lot of time, then
Yeah, and also
I
these
will
panel
just,
lines, we sometimes even went back and forth on some of the characters, tweak the panel lines. Sometimes we like them and don't like them. And I guess if you went for that being in the high poly, it was going to be a very slow change. And in this
yes.
case, we saved a lot of time going back and forth on those.
Yeah, I think it's faster this way. So if something's not working out, we can just repaint it in here, and we save a lot of time, because doing them in poly modeling, even if you use floaters, takes more time than doing them in here. Of course, there are some details that I cannot do in texturing, that I know for sure that it's faster in a high poly, or it's gonna look even better. So then
Yeah.
I will just do it in high poly. But I already, when I'm doing the high poly in Blender, I'm already thinking, I already know I want to do these panel lines in here, but I decided they're faster in
Yeah.
textures. So let's do them later, or at this point. So yeah, this is the idea. Once this is, as you can see, it's separated by the
Yeah.
parts we're going to
I have
use.
here one more question because there are some emissive parts. Like, do you also paint a little bit of light into around those parts for the model just to kind of have that fake light around, or
We must paint. Like, if you, we all love RGB, but I, even if this part is emissive, like, I want to have this sense of there is a LED behind it, so I wanted to have this sense of, there is a mechanism
yeah,
behind. So that's why, if you see the emissive,
this is here where all your love
we,
for robots starts shining, and
yes,
details and like how things work, and yeah,
yeah, there's such a simple detail, but it's a worthy detail.
yeah,
If this ring is just one intensity, it's not so appealing. So same in here, need to fake some RGB. So that's the idea behind it. But I actually consider this really simple, but it's because it takes no time to do.
yeah, but it's also like exactly because it's simple, but it's also, I would say, very often overlooked and like not being added as a detail, but it really contributes, especially on the close-ups, and not even on the close-ups, but just when you look the character from distance, it looks a bit more organic because of how the light distributes and like all the other bits and pieces. Because otherwise, it looks just flat if you just have an emissive there.
Yeah, so even here we have a little bit of Fresnel going on,
Yeah,
fake Fresnel.
fake for now.
But yeah, that's the idea behind it. We want to have some sort of, not everything needs to go just on. We
Yeah.
want small nuances in there. So yeah, that's the idea.
All right. Great. Yeah, and once this is done, time to assemble everything.
Once this is done, I need to present it to you. So I will take it to. Uh, I will take him for a ride and test it in Marmoset to check that this is the end result of this guy. Of course, in the engine, it's going to look a little bit different because of our shader, but this is like because at the beginning we were working with stuff we're moving on shader wise. We have one shader, then another shader.
Yeah.
So,
Shader changed a few times.
so I still use Marmoset as a benchmark to check all the characters, how they look, and if they look as part of a single of the same universe. So I kept using Marmoset for that. So that's the idea behind it. And in here I have also the other skin for this guy, which is this one. This is original skin. He also has a weapon, which is a hat. It's not usual in this position, but for presentation, it's in this position, so we can see the head.
Yeah.
And we were also by the way, for the first skin, we were thinking we can do some sort of ultimate attack when all the plates separated, showing that he has a weapon, or he was a weapon itself. So that was the idea behind why these panels were separated like this. So this was not in the concept, but this is when we were talking and playing, like something that's gonna probably
How
be
it's gonna
cool.
animate just to make it alive, to feel alive at least.
Yes. So that's all I have.
All right, great. Well, any last thoughts or something that else you wanted to share about the character process for Eternal League? What were the struggles? What was the toughest? Let's start from there. What was the toughest part, or yeah, what was the toughest part, and what was the chores that as well we had to do for this?
Hmm. This is a good question. I would say the beginning, since we were knowing each other and the project and what we wanted to do with it, trying to. Okay, so I guess the biggest problem for me at the beginning was believing in myself and thinking how much, if it is okay for me to change stuff, or if I just should follow what I see, and that's all. And the more I find out that it's okay for me to change stuff if I feel it's going to look better. And then, of course, it's not that I change something and I come back to you 2 weeks later with the end result. If I'm changing something, I'm checking all the time for 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 approval, right? So I don't want to
Yeah,
come
it's
to
been
you
like we've
with a
been like
surprise.
all the time. I think daily, like, and this is how we dealt with pretty much everything in the project. Like we've been in constant communication, like the whole team, since we are a small team, all the time talking about what we are working on, all the time discussing different things, different ideas, iterating on them, and yeah, getting to final results. Because to be fair, like I don't have I know that a lot of the things like go through me, and like go through me saying thumbs up, or I like let's put it on pause or anything like that, but I don't have the answers for everything. So sometimes it comes out, I'll say, from those exactly iterations and figuring out, and even from other team members. Like we also discuss a lot of the things very often into like group calls with the rest of the team, and yeah, just kind of, let's say, voting for what direction to take.
Sometimes I also need just time to think about something. I
Yeah,
remember
that as
once
well.
I asked you for there is a a big time difference between you and because of our locations, and sometimes I asked something, it was too late for you. So by the time you come back to me, I already thought of a solution
Yeah.
that look better. So I just needed a little bit of time to think
Yeah.
about it.
Talking about the time and the time difference, by the way, how is for you? How is for you like the whole working from home? Like I know that nowadays there's like a lot of like if you look at the internet, like there's a lot of this conversations of does work from home really work, and that studios would like to bring. Not only artists but like developers back to the offices and so on. But yeah, how the whole remote work worked for you. I think that for the team we did very well, and it's not like our logistics is very easy because we have I'm based in the UK, you're based in Ecuador, we have other guys that are other parts of Europe based, and also the programmers that are based in Malaysia and Philippines. So we are kind of spread it, like I would say, in multiple time zones. But even given that, I think things work well. But yeah, from your perspective, how was it? And yeah, what were the challenges there as well?
Uh, no challenges, to be honest. I love it. I think it's great to be able to work from home, even if I need to drive for 1 hour to get to my job because I need to take my kid to the school and then come back and then I can start working. So I drive 1 hour to start working. But it's really great to well. So I have the peace of mind that I'm close to my kid,
Yeah,
to my wife. But at the same time, I'm in a separated space where I can focus and dedicate to my craft. And about the time difference, it's I wouldn't say I've been a problem at all. Like when I start working, you guys have already some hours of work, but we managed to speak almost every single day without a problem. And well, since you never sleep, also it's easier because you are available most of the day, most of my day. So yeah, even with Ali, which was 13 hours, there is a huge gap. Even that was something that
yeah,
we could work together. So I don't see a problem with it. Maybe once that I had to be present in what I wanted to. It wasn't like required, but if I wanted, I could be present in a meeting that was 4 a.m. in the morning for me. That was too much.
yeah,
At
yeah. I
4 a.m.
guess that's like one of those things that will happen from time to time with yeah, with the team being so spread around the world. Yeah,
But I don't think it's. I think it's not.
yeah. It was a
There's a
one-off. It's
solution
not
for it.
a it's not a, like a regular thing that we do. So
No, no, no.
yeah.
So no, I really enjoy it. Like this is really great.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you exactly about the whole work from home because, as I said, like there's been a lot of like a lot of people that are defending that well, if you go in the office, like you're going to be more focused and you can do more work, and also you're in communication with the team and everything else. But to be fair, like from our developments, we were very efficient, very much in communication, as you said. Like we managed to have like things daily. We managed to talk about things daily. We managed to communicate it with the team. We have the team syncs as well, twice per week. So I think it's really, I would say, from for me, the work on this project really showed that it's not about like location and if everyone are in the same location, but it's more about just, I don't know, being, I would say, people, and being like communicating with the team, everyone being interested in what we are doing, everyone wanted to contribute to the project and like really being interested, because I think every single person that's worked on the project and contributed to where we are today really helped on that whole spirit work, and that being like an easy process rather than a complicated one.
Yeah, I really don't think of it as a problem working from home. I was already used working from home since I've been doing it for many years,
Yeah.
even before it was trendy. But like you develop an order, for lack of a better word that I can't think right now, of doing stuff. Like even if you're working from home, it's your work, so you respect it and dedicate time to it, and it's just that you don't have to drive too much to get to the office. But other than that, it's your office. You dedicate the time,
Yeah.
and I see no problem with it.
All right, great. Well, any final words?
Use Blender. Oh,
Yes, Blender. um, so as I mentioned, the game is on Steam. Add it to your wish list. We are more than happy of hearing more feedback and what everyone thinks about the characters, the team, and like everyone puts a lot of effort, a lot of love to develop it. I hope that it's going to be enjoyable experience for all of you, and of course the game is like, once it's out there for the early access, there are going to be many iterations, many changes, tweaks, and other adjustments that we will be doing. We know that this is not like a final thing. We want your feedback. We want to engage with the community, and yeah, I guess our whole mentality, like all of us have been gamers, all of us want to do and we've been doing what we like we put our like hearts and souls, I guess, into the projects, and just want to do something that first for us it's fun and is our vision of it, but then at the end it comes to also the community and getting the feedback from the community and making a game that like all of us enjoy and all of us want to play. And I'm not talking about only the gameplay part, I'm talking also about the visual part and how the game further develops, because what we currently and what you currently are going to see in the early access is not going to be the only characters. There are more things that are coming. There are more characters. There are more skins. There are more assets and things that we are working as content. And how that content takes shape and how it looks in future, I would say it's a combined effort of both the team and as well the community, and yeah, getting that engagement.
thank you so much for the opportunity, by the way. I hope everyone enjoys the project
Yeah,
as much as I
thanks a
did.
lot. Yeah, I would say that from all the projects, is definitely like up there in terms of team and how we worked together, and yeah, just it's been and it continues being like a absolute pleasure working on it, and yeah, just the ideas and how we deal with everything. Well, thanks a lot as well for taking your time to do this call with me and go over like the process and everything else. I'm going to do similar calls. So again, follow us, give us comments, what else you guys might want to see for the rest of the team. We want, as a very small indie developer, we are trying to get as much as possible the word out there. We are trying to share as well like our insights and our processes of working, because the team itself, everyone has years of experience in the industry, but usually bigger studios, they try to hide what they do, and there may be like one or two panels and talks on GDC or some other places like that. In our case, we try to be quite open. We try to not only enjoy and bring and create a nice game, but at the same time, I would say bring a little bit back to the community and hopefully inspire and get like some new artists and new game developers on board to start doing their game. So yeah, thanks again, Arturo. It was yeah, absolute pleasure. And yeah, if you guys want to know more, feel free to leave us a message. I'm sure that Arturo will be more than happy to do and to jump on another such conversation for characters.
More than happy.
Brilliant. Well, thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you, and see you next time.